there, everyone. This is Lynn, your adulting coach. I help autistic young adults and their families systemize adulting together. Today's struggle comes from Wendy Whitley Christ from the Art of Adulting Facebook page, which is my private Facebook page. I would love to see you there. She has a 20-year-old college student, and here are some of the things she's thinking. She's finding him easily, oops, sorry about that typo there, easily triggered by his parents' simple questions, after school demands, and the social aspect of going to school. And she feels that she's getting the brunt of the impact as a result. And, that's not a good feeling. She's feeling, I can only imagine from those thoughts that she must be feeling kind of put off and not appreciated and just, pushed away from not good things for a mom to feel. So yeah, it's quite uncomfortable for her. So our first challenge then is to understand what is going on with our autistic young adult, that we're getting this kind of behavior on a regular basis. And I turned to the blog sphere to come up with what might make an explanation that makes sense to us. So this spoon theory idea came from a blogger who was talking about dealing with a chronic illness that she had, and that her energy had a certain number of spoons. And when she used them up, she really had to go someplace and recharge. It just wasn't possible for her to participate anymore in a lot of interaction with others. And the autistic community has really appreciated this explanation and adapted it to, okay, we know that there are challenges with the brain that we got in the social realm, in the physical activity realm, in the executive functioning realm, language, as well as sensory. Those are just the 5 that this particular blogger picked out as the areas of challenge that they have. And you can see that they've allocated different spoons to the amount of energy that they have available for each of those areas of life. This is a really apt analogy. It suggests that, okay, this particular individual can take a lot of physical activity and is pretty darn good at executive function, because they've given themselves a lot of spoons there for what the demands, and even they can handle a lot of sensory challenges. But when it comes to social and language, there's just only so much energy available. Such a helpful visual way to think about what could be going on in our own autistic young adults world. So let's keep that spoon theory in mind when we're looking at what's happening to better understand what's going on. Oh, and please, I am taking these understand, connect, and then practice concepts from Barb Avila's book, Seeing Autism. And I will make sure that I link to that in the show notes. I think it's in the transcript. It's really a great resource for parents to understand what's going on with our autistic young adults and why. So here's when we want to connect first with ourselves and then with them, because we want to see, okay, what are we operating from? What are the what's causing us to feel the way that we feel? And so the steer map is really where we need to look at to sort out what's happening so that we can find the flexibility in our thinking, so that, maybe we can come up with a thought that's going to create a result that's more aligned with what we really want in our family. And it starts with the situation, which is just the facts, because the facts can't hurt us. So we have to get to a fact in this situation, but what's happening is that fact is triggering a thought in our mind. So this is our interpretation of what everyone would agree with, just the facts, just the known nothing can hurt us kinds of accepting those facts. So those thoughts then flavor our emotions, which generate the actions that we take and cause the results. I find this is a very helpful way of making sure that I'm examining what's going on in my brain and I'm starting to grab hold of that steering wheel, my mind. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to take you, brain, and I know that you're, going to have some default ways of thinking because you're trying to protect me. I get that. And so what I want to do is I want to just steer my thinking a little bit. I want to be flexible with my thinking so that I take myself to the real destination that I want to go in and not just the one that my brain offers me as default. This is an interesting and challenging way of getting, of growing. And when we teach this to ourselves and apply it to ourselves, we realize the power of it. And then it's a gift we can really give to our autistic young adults. Once we have mastered it, then we can turn and teach it. Well, mastered it might be an exaggeration because I don't know that I'll ever master it, but at least I know the practice that I'm trying to head toward. So this is what the tool is that I believe is going to help us really teach, and I've seen it in my family, teach our autistic young adults how to be a little bit more flexible in the way that they think so that they can have a better emotion that drives the actions that are going to create the life that they love, that is going to work. So let's look at what's going on here. Her son said words. That's about as facty as I can get when my young adult is looking at me and saying things or texting things. They're words. And currently her thought right now is after a day at school, forced to be social, the parents are taking the brunt of it. Now, can you see the difference between the facts that don't hurt, the son said words, and then our interpretation of what happened with those words? And that's the part that we can choose. That's where Viktor Frankl, in his Man's Search for Meaning, after horrible, tragic experiences with his family and within concentration camps during the Nazi Germany, he said, we have the choice. That's the one choice no one can take away from us, is how we decide to think about the circumstances in our life. And wow, if he can do it in a situation like that, I'm inspired to do it in whatever situation I find myself in life. So here's where we separate out the situation from the thinking. Okay, so that's the thought right now. Now let's look at, okay, what does that thought produce? Well, I'm guessing, but I think that it would produce a feeling, an emotion of being defeated. It's like, I just want to answer to a simple question, and I'm not getting it. And it just feels so defeating that after 20 years of investment in this child, all the love in the world, all the energy, all the help that we could possibly muster, this is what's happening now, is that they just don't even respond when we ask a simple question. You can just hear the thoughts, right, that are spinning and creating that defeated. So that's when action is spinning in thoughts. We withdraw from our autistic young adults. We avoid them because we don't want to experience that discomfort, that defeated, that hurt feeling that we get when we don't get the response that we really expect from them. And then, of course, the result is that we disconnect from one another. Not the thought that is going to get us where we want to go to. And then let's look at, okay, what is going on possibly with the autistic young adult's thinking, and they're home from school. His thought probably could be, just leave me alone, I'm done. And so he gets frustrated because he's already done before he even walked in the door, and he lashes out at his parents. And then, of course, they're both disconnected now. So this is just a dynamic that how do I know this? Because it's happened in my house, and it happens, often enough in homes where we have non-autistic brains. So I know that this is, I know it just helps me to sort of sort things out like this and figure out, okay, what what is going on? What is that thought? Is that thought working for me? Or can I take my brain and I can just use my mind to steer my brain to say, no, that's not the thought we're going to think now. We're going to be inspired by Viktor Frankl's example and we're going to choose a thought that might work better for us and try it on and see if it's true to us and see if it works better for us. And then once we have practiced that enough, I just promise you, because I've been doing this now since 2016, that this has made a huge difference in my life. And I've taught it to my autistic young adults, and it really has helped us stay connected with one another so we can solve the problems that we have together and really come up with a solution that works for everyone in the family. Because we're really not independent people. We are all very interdependent. So if we can use a system like this to think about, what's happening, we all have common language, we all have a common way of solving problems together. And that keeps us connected and strong as a family, which I know is what you want, or you wouldn't be asking these questions, because I know you have a vision of a family that is close and loving and supportive. And I'm telling you, this is the best tool I've found to help me get through times like what you're suffering with right now, what your challenge is right now, your struggle. So, okay. So we got to look at our thoughts. We've got to teach our young adults to look at their thoughts and see if they can be flexible. And using that tool, the SEER map, is really the way to do it. In the meantime, though, between now and we're introduced to this concept. Okay, we're going to go try it. What do we do to make things better? And so I just advocate over and over again that really our job is to listen, and listen. And the more we listen, the more we'll understand what the thoughts are that are creating the emotions and the actions that we're seeing in our autistic young adults. And the more we listen and find those thoughts, the more they will feel seen, safe, and soothed by our presence, so that they are secure with us, and then they can take that security to the world and create the life that they love that works. So listening is the very first step that we have to take. We have to take deep breaths when they're around. We have to stop having expectations of what they're going to give to us. They're only going to give to us what they're capable of giving. And that's all based on what they're thinking and feeling. So, let's just listen and do our best to reflect their emotion and their meaning using declarative sentences. So this is where I would encourage mom to not ask questions. Instead, make declarative statements. What happens often with a brain that is just on high alert all the time, which is what I would describe the brains of the autistic people that I love, is that when we ask them a question, it can really put them into the fight, flight, or flee reaction, because it's like a demand that they have to answer to. And so they're going to immediately resist even answering a question, especially when they're in heightened state. So instead of asking a question, I highly suggest that we do declarative statements like, you feel tired after school. You're frustrated. Seems like you've used up all the energy you have. You're done. Those types of declarative sentences say, I see what's going on with you. I care about you. I want you to know that I notice what's happening with you. And that declarative approach is so much better than a questioning approach, because it doesn't require an answer. It just says, I see you. They can respond if they're able to do that or not. And then I would suggest that you can use various openings so you don't sound mechanical to your child, which is, it sounds like I hear you saying, if I'm following you, help me understand. I'm seeing reluctance, I'm seeing fear, I'm seeing shame, I'm seeing loneliness, because and when are the third part. So this reflective listening is a declarative statement. It is not a question about what in that, what is going on with you, or what happened, or that require a response. It just says, I see you, I hear you, I love you, I am here for you, and I will always love you. And that's, I think, the message that we want to send to our autistic young adults. And I'm going to respectfully suggest that now that they are out of the school system and they are starting, very much just starting to define what they want out of their life through secondary education or jobs or not, whatever it is that their life looks like now, that our role as the parent of an adult child, autistic or not autistic, is three things. We encourage, we warn, and we are consulted. And this came from Linda and Richard Iyer, whom I really admire. They have a wonderful website called valuesparenting.com, which I will link to. I will give you the link in the transcript. And if you Google these three things, the encouraging, the warning, and the consulting, you'll discover that these are actually the monarch's role in England. When you think about it, Queen Elizabeth does not legislate action. She does not expect anything from the government of England. She is there to encourage, to warn, and to be consulted. And so that's why I give us the crown, and I remind myself to put it on whenever I'm judging whether or not my autistic young adult is meeting my expectations or not. And I have to remind myself that that is not their job to meet my expectations. That is my job. And I need to be very hard on myself about what I need to, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I need to have my expectations of myself clearly defined. And I really expect myself to live up to those expectations. And I monitor myself carefully. And that my job with my autistic young adults is really to love them through encouraging, warning, and being consulted by them. And the more often I listen to them and really hear and see what's going on with them, the more likely they are to come and consult me when things are difficult in their life, when they're struggling. And that's really what I want them to do. I want them to come to me as their coach, as their parent, as the one that they know they can trust, who has their best interests at heart. That's what we want. And we just always want to love them until the end of our runway and prepare them to be able to create a life that they love, that works through the flexible thinking that I'm advocating in this video. So please come to lyncdavison.com/blog for a transcript of this video, and consider looking around and looking at the Art of Adulting, which is the course, coaching, and community that I've created for parents of autistic young adults who want to systemize adulting together. Bye for now.